This is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars, if not my favorite. There are so many great things about it, so let's break it down. Hey, it's me here to talk about storytelling. This is a member-exclusive video. So if you want access, join the group to get access. You can find the link below, and with that said, let's begin. We open on a shot of Cassio's ship diving through the asteroid field being pursued by Darth Vader. The camera follows close behind it. We hear a beeping sound that we later learn is coming from inside the ship. As the ship flies into the next shot, we see that the asteroid field has opened up to reveal a massive trench run. It's very much like the Death Star trench run, but instead of the Death Star blowing up at the end of it, a bunch of rebel ships fly out. We soon come to realize that this was all a trap. And while Cassian managed to escape, his wingman, Timur, was captured. As the scene cuts away, we hear the final transmission from Tim's ship as Darth Vader boards it. Now, let's take a look at some of the amazing things that this scene does. Okay, number 1. Let's talk about the fact that the perspective of the audience shifts as the movie unfolds. At first, we are watching the battle from the perspective of Cassio. Then when the attack goes awry, we switch over to watching it from the perspective of Tim. This is similar to how George Lucas edited the Mos Eisley space battle from Episode 4, switching between the perspectives of Luke, Obi-Wan, and the other characters. When there's an action scene going on, it's always more fun to watch it from multiple points of view because you get to see the action from different perspectives. We don't have to guess what the characters are thinking or feeling. We get to see it because we're getting their point of view. Now, another thing that I think is really cool about this scene is the fact that just before Cassian makes the decision to hide in the trench, they put a rebel fleet composited behind him. Because of this, he actually thinks that he's in trouble because he thinks that those ships were his wingmen. But in reality, he's flying right towards them. They're not his wingmen, they're the fleet. So this is an example of what I call rear guard action. Basically, the rebels pretended to be Cassio's wingmen in order to lure Darth Vader into the trap. Another example of this is in the Battle of Hoth, where the rebel snowspeeders pretended to retreat so that the Millennium Falcon could get into position to destroy the ATSTs. This is also a great example of the phrase misdirection, something that happens all the time in sports when a player pretends to go in one direction but then goes in another. In baseball, you often see hitters pretend to bunt in order to get the pitcher to throw a pitch down the middle that they can then hit for a home run. And this is basically the same thing. The rebels wanted Darth Vader to pursue the apparent fleeing ships, and they used the apparent fleeing ships to lure him right into the trap. But speaking of the trap itself, let's go ahead and talk about that. There are two main elements to this trap. First, they used the asteroid field to block Darth Vader as sensors, so that he couldn't detect the fleet until it was too late. Second, they used the asteroids themselves as covers so that they could fire on Darth Vader with their turbolasers without him being able to do anything about it. The asteroid field wasn't just there as scenery, it served a real purpose. This is a great lesson to remember when writing your own stories. Never include something that doesn't serve a purpose. The asteroid field might have looked cool, but it also serves the purpose of hiding the fleet and also blocking Darth Vader's sensors. So as I mentioned earlier, we see the action from both Cassius's point of view and from Tim's point of view. Cassius opens up his ship's hatch in order to eject. He thought that he was going to die, but then he sees that his ship isn't destroyed. And since he has nothing to lose, he decides to fly right into the trench with the rest of the fleet. Tim, on the other hand, was taken captive by Darth Vader and brought onto the Death Star, but before he was taken captive, we saw his helmet get damaged. And in the next scene, we see that his helmet has been removed and that he is hanging upside down in a medical bay. His helmet is on a table next to him. The way that the filmmakers chose to show us Tim's helmet being removed was brilliant because it allowed us to know what had happened to him without having to see it happen. It was an off-screen beat. The fact that they showed us his helmet being removed made it clear that Tim was a prisoner on the Death Star without us ever having to hear Darth Vader say the words, "You are now my prisoner," That's a great way to keep tension high. Oftentimes, it's better to imply something than to spell it out for the audience. And that's exactly what they did in this scene. Next, we got to talk about the amazing stunt work done by Siân Phillips, who played Cassio in this scene. She had to perform all of her own aerial maneuvers, which included flying her X-Wing straight into an asteroid field at 300 miles per hour. They didn't use a stunt double, she flew the ship herself. Also, for the scene where she exits her ship and drifts through space, she had to be suspended in a harness above the ground for hours at a time. And the reason why this works so well is because we believe that Cassian is actually drifting through space. She's not just standing around on a blue screen. She's actually performing these stunts. It's not a CGI character. It's not a stunt double. It's the actual actress. This is a great reminder that when it comes to action movies, it's important to have actors who can do their own stunts. Too often, movies will cast an actor who caught and performed their own stunts, and then they lines use CGI or a stunt double. And while CGI and stunt doubles are useful, they can't replace the energy that a real-life person brings to the set. And that's exactly what they had in Siân Phillips. Next, let's talk about the fact that the scene uses practical effects. Even though the scene takes place in space, the filmmakers still chose to shoot it using practical effects as opposed to CGI. They built an actual asteroid field. They suspended pieces of foam and rubber in front of the camera in order to make it look like Phillips's X-Wing was actually flying through an asteroid field. And that's a great lesson for aspiring filmmakers. If you want to make your movies feel epic, don't rely on CGI. Use every opportunity to use miniatures, props, and costumes. All of these things add authenticity to your film that CGI just can't replicate. Another great thing about this scene is the fact that we get to see an underdog victory. Tim and Cassian were severely outnumbered by the Imperial forces, but they managed to win anyway. They weren't powerful or skilled, they were smart and resourceful. Underdog victories are always satisfying, but they're especially satisfying when the underdogs aren't particularly skilled or powerful, but instead are just smart. When someone defeats a more powerful opponent by being clever rather than by brute force, it feels good because it reminds us that anyone can be powerful. You don't have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth in order to win. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the music. John Williams' score for Rogue One is fantastic. It's actually my favorite Star Wars score. Williams does such a good job of making the music feel epic. There's one particular piece that plays during this scene called "Oh Captain, My Captain." It's a beautiful piece of music that adds so much to the scene. The music swells just as Cassian enters the trench, giving us a sense of hope that maybe, just maybe, they're gonna make it. And then once it becomes clear that Cassius and Damar are the only ones who survived, the music becomes triumphant. It's a wonderful piece of music that perfectly encapsulates the tone of the scene. Okay, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to continue to learn about storytelling, I highly recommend checking out the Story Grid. It's a fantastic resource for writers. You can find the link to it below. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and may the Force be with you always.